Thank you, Chairman. A couple of things that I just, I don't fly at all. I have a few friends that fly. I do make a pretty mean pizza. At least that's what they tell me. But here's what one of my concerns is the fact that this will create another government agency when we already have a system in place. And I guess this question is to Dr. Button, is that the analogy of the bigger plane, or just the statement on the bigger plane landing on the runway versus the smaller plane. The bigger plane is going to use a lot more fuel, therefore pay more in taxes. And you know, I don't believe that they do make the same impact on the airports when they're landing or taking off. Specifically, I guess, would be taking off. It'd be like saying the Ford Escort versus the semi-truck using the road. You know, it's kind of that idea. But the one thing that I look at is, you know, we've got pretty much everybody here agreeing that they're willing to pay more in the fuel tax, just like Mr. Schrader said. You know, so one of my concerns, again, also is the fact that, you know, we're going to start out with a number out of the hat, $100. Where does it go? And I do have a young man that, I guess, what do I tell the 18-year-old kid that's trying to get his, he's starting to fly, and that every time he's going to take off or land, it's going to cost him a couple $100. You know, I think we're discouraging new pilots for long-term down the road. That gets pretty expensive, especially for some young folks that are out there. But I mean, when I go back home this weekend, what do I tell this 18-year-old pilot with the $100 fee? How do I sell that to him?
Well, first of all, we need to tell him to enroll in a new degree we're going to have at George Mason, where you can get credits for acquiring a pilot's license, so you can get a plus from that. I think the point is very much, I mean, I understand, I'm the academic here, therefore I'm putting forward the academic perspective, because I think we'd have a sort of consensus without me here. And I also do believe there are user charges. From a pragmatic short-term point of view, you may want to raise fuel taxes. The administration's then, that's easy. That does not avoid the arbitrariness of the system, though. You're talking about $100 being arbitrary. How much are you going to raise the fuel tax by? What amount? That's equally arbitrary.
No, it's not. Oh, excuse me.
Well, well, why isn't it? I mean, if you want to raise a certain sum of money, then you can, it's arbitrary in the sense, if you push up the fuel tax, you're going to raise a sum of money. You have a target sum of money you want to raise, you raise the fuel tax to get that target sum of money. So you've got to have the target sum of money. Ditto when you have the $100, you've got a target sum of money, $1.2 billion, I believe. That's a target. So the target is there whichever way you go. Both are arbitrary. As for your son, I think you ought to say it's a great future in aviation, that the aviation industry is growing, and that in the longer term, if the economy picks up, there'll be a lot of opportunities for flying, and he'll be earning a large salary, perhaps producing pizzas and flying them around. I don't know.
Very good. Next question, Mr. Pierce. The small business you're in, being in small business, the one thing that's very frustrating is we work on fractions. It's, you know, you're running this business, you're paying, you know, utilities, rent, what have you. The government continues to come in and want to take another piece of that fraction. You know, between the regulations and everything going on, I mean, do you find that you know, that's a big problem within your business?
Absolutely. The social cost of doing business is perhaps one of our largest challenges. The economy has obviously hurt our industry and a lot of my competitors, as I've mentioned, and you're so focused on trying to work to serve your customers and to do what you need to do to take care of your employees and allow them to have good places to come to work and grow as individuals and care for their families. And more regulations just tend to keep kind of poking their nose in, where more and more time is spent not only looking at the regulations, but also determining what cost to allocate in terms of or budgetary items for accountants and lawyers and everybody else to make it so that a small business person like myself can understand all of these new charges and regulations and how to properly comply with them. And I think that when we look at things like the administrative cost of this new proposal, this would add to that burden in addition to the other social costs we're already incurring.
Does your food service company absorb that cost, or do you pass it on to your customers?
We have absorbed to some degree. as much as we can. You take part of the pain, and eventually you figure out that if you take all the pain, you're going to go out of business yourself. So that has been passed along to our end user customers and increased, obviously, their costs for equipment and their costs for services, which is then revenue that they can't use to pay to grow their own companies.
That they pass on to their customers
Yes,
also. So
absolutely.
the bottom line is all of these fees go down to the hardworking people across the United States of America. With that, I yield back.